The increase in mass shootings in the age of Trump is a symptom of deep cultural degradation, and it's also a conspiracy nation. Now, America is a conspiracy nation that's awash with guns, and it's in an exceptionally deadly combination. The anti-Semitic QAnon conspiracy theory, for example, has been linked to many incidents of lethal violence, and most notably the January 6th Klan attack at the Capitol that was orchestrated by Donald Trump himself. Now, this white supremacist Great Replacement theory is an absurd and fantastical lie that there is a plot by Democrats and other so-called culturists working in the name of diversity to eliminate white people and replace them with black and brown people in the United States and Europe. It has been propagated by the likes of Foe and the racist piece of shit Tucker Carlson, who's the network's biggest liar, and it's been directly linked to hate crimes like the May 2022 massacre of 10 black people in a supermarket in Buffalo, New York, by an avowed white supremacist who brought into this lie. And while extreme beliefs have grown increasingly common among Republicans, new research by the United States Secret Service sounds the alarm about the link between such widespread conspiracy theories and the country's plague of mass shootings. A full 26% of the attackers studied from 2016 to 2020 were motivated by conspiracy theories or a hate-focused belief system. Back in 2020, a Christmas Day bomber and the Secret Service determined that bomber was motivated by conspiracy theory, and the day before Memorial Day was chosen by one attack because, according to conspiracy theory at the time, this was the day before society would collapse, according to the guy. Now, the Secret Service report specifically points to the role played by misogyny and other forms of hatred against women in mass shootings. Now, gender-based biases and extreme misogyny continue to pose a threat to women. Now, as started earlier, though, and not all people possess misogynistic views, and not many of them are violent, and the viewpoints that describe women as the enemy or call for violence against women remain a cause for concern. But at least 35 different attacks, 19 of them, 19% basically, displaced misogynistic behaviors prior to their attacks, including calling women derogatory names, engaging in sexual harassment, and threatening sexual violence. As described in prior publications, including the Hot Yoga Tallahassee, a case study of misogynistic extremism, those who subscribe to extreme misogynistic belief systems often communicate about, or they promote and consume these views across various online communities. Now, in some instances, some of these community members go beyond simply advocating on behalf of men, expressing extreme ideologies and involving the sexual objectification of women, and they call for violence against them. The report also highlights loneliness and other forms of antisocial behavior among mass shooting, with approximately one-third of them fitting that profile, and more than one-third of the mass shooters were bullies or had a history of harassing other people. A new op-ed in the New York Times by Gillian Peterson and James Densley echoes the Secret Service's findings, and they basically profiled the signs of crisis in 50 years of mass shootings, and this is what they found focuses on the role of what social scientists and other experts describe as the deaths of despair. Now, often used to explain increasing mortality rates among predominantly middle-aged white men caused by suicide, drug overdose, and alcohol abuse, Peterson and Densley say the term also helps explain the accelerating frequency of mass shootings in this country. Now, white Americans as a group are much more vulnerable to the deaths of despair than the black and brown people are, because white privilege and other unearned advantages have left many white people unable to confront the challenges and disappointments of their life. Now, black and brown people are instead barraged by racial battle fatigue. Now, in their op-ed, Peterson and Densley offer this warning and advice about mass shootings in the American society that is literally fucking gun crazy. Mass shooters are not the victims here. But in order to prevent future tragedies, we must treat the underlying pathologies that feed the shooter's despair. Now, mass shootings must no longer be written off as an inexplicable episode of unthinkable violence. The communities and governments need to find ways to reduce social isolation more broadly and improve access to mental health care and substance abuse treatment. These steps must be taken not in place of it, but in addition to passing widely supported gun safety laws like background checks, longer waiting periods, safer gun storage requirements, and red flag laws. Now, instead, we have allowed mass shootings to become normalized in American culture, and we ask the children to participate in active shooter drills and pass through metal detectors on their way to and from class. And we always say never again, and yet less than 48 hours elapsed between the shootings in Monterey Park and Half Moon Bay, California. And again, it keeps happening because mass shooters are not monsters who appear out of thin air. Mass shooters live amongst us. They are us, and they are for the most part the men and guys that we know, and they can be stopped before they pull the fucking trigger. Now, the increase in mass shootings and other forms of antisocial behavior in the age of Trump is a symptom of deep cultural problems in the United States. As Richard Slotkin and Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz and Carol Anderson and other experts have examined in great detail, America's gun sickness is centuries fucking old. It goes back years. The other causes the other causes that we see are more immediate, like the rise of Trumpism, neo-fascism, and an illiberal and larger anti-democracy political project that views violence as a legitimate and necessary means of attaining and keeping political and social power, and the gun is the ultimate conversation stopper. Now, the Republican Party itself knows that the public as a whole rejects its policies because the Republican policies don't benefit anyone. And that as a response to this reality, political violence is viewed as a reasonable and necessary tactic and strategy for imposing their will on others in what they believe is an existential battle for the future of our country. Now, in that type of thinking, the Republican Party is willing to surrender to neo-fascism as a type of permission for violent and pathological behavior across American society. Now, ultimately, the age of Trump represents the normalization of deviance and a permission function for the worst of any human behavior kind. Now, Donald Trump may, and hopefully will die soon, and disappear from American life, but what he and his movement have encouraged and given permission for will remain for a very long fucking time. Now, America's fucking sick. It's rot down to the bones. Now, unfortunately, America's leaders and most everyday people do not want to do the necessary and hard work to get better. Now, even worse, many of them are not able to discern the difference between healthy and unhealthy behavior, and sick societies produce sick leaders, and America is no fucking exception. Now, if you liked the video, you can give the video a like and subscribe to my channel, RBW King. You can also hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified when a new video comes out. And if you want to support my work even further, you can donate to my Patreon link, which you can find in the About section of YouTube. And for just a little as a few bucks, and for a little as a few bucks, for a video, it can go a long way. And thanks for listening.